Welcome to G Fun Facts Online. Today we're talking about an invisible threat that has coexisted with wild birds for millennia. A threat that is now showing up in unexpected places, like American dairy farms. We're talking about avian influenza, or bird flu. While it's usually a problem for birds, these viruses have a disturbing ability to leap to humans. It's a process called zoonotic spillover, and it's why global health experts are constantly worried about the next big pandemic. They see avian flu as a prime candidate. So today, we're diving deep into the science of this virus, from its genetic tricks to the global flyways that carry it across continents, and what the world is doing to stop a potential catastrophe. Let's get started. At the heart of this story is the influenza A virus. It's an RNA virus, which is important because RNA viruses are sloppy copiers. Their high mutation rate lets them evolve and adapt incredibly fast. Think of its genetic code not as a single long book, but as 8 separate chapters, or gene segments. This segmentation is like having a set of interchangeable parts, and it's the key to its pandemic potential. This genetic material is encased in a protein shell and then wrapped in a lipid envelope, which is studded with 2 critical proteins, hemagglutinin, or HA, and neuraminidase, or NA. The HA protein is a spike that acts like a key, binding to receptors on a host cell to let the virus in. There are 18 known HA subtypes. The NA protein is an enzyme that acts like a release switch. After the virus has replicated inside the cell, NA cleaves the new virus particles from the cell's surface, allowing them to escape and infect other cells. There are 11 NA subtypes. The specific combination of these 2 proteins gives a virus its name, like H5N1 or H7N9. We then categorize these subtypes by how sick they make chickens. Low pathogenic avian influenza, or LPAI, causes mild or no symptoms in poultry. But highly pathogenic avian influenza, or HPAI, can be devastating, with mortality rates up to 100%. It's crucial to remember this pathogenicity rating is for chickens. It doesn't predict how severe the virus will be in humans. The virus evolves in 2 main ways. The first is called antigenic drift. These are small, gradual mutations in the HA and NA genes. These tiny changes can disguise the virus just enough so that our immune system, even if it's seen a similar flu before, struggles to recognize and fight it. The second, and more dramatic, method is antigenic shift. This happens when 2 different influenza viruses infect the same host cell at the same time. Because their genomes are in 8 separate segments, these segments can get mixed and matched or reassorted. This can create a completely new, hybrid virus with a novel combination of HA and NA proteins. The human population would have little to no immunity against such a virus, and it's this antigenic shift that has caused past influenza pandemics. So how does a virus perfectly adapted for a bird's gut make the leap into a human? This zoonotic spillover is a complex process. The biggest hurdle is the difference in cell receptors. Bird flu viruses prefer to bind to what are called alpha-2, 3-linked sialic acid receptors, which are plentiful in the intestinal tract of birds. Human seasonal flu viruses, on the other hand, bind to alpha-2, 6-linked receptors, which are dominant in our upper respiratory tract. For a bird flu virus to efficiently infect a person, and, more importantly, to spread from person to person, its HA protein needs to mutate to switch its preference from the bird-type receptor to the human type. Scientists have pinpointed the exact amino acid changes that can make this happen. For H5N1 viruses, a single mutation at position 226 of the HA protein could significantly increase its ability to attach to human cells. This very mutation has been found in the H5N1 strain circulating in U.S. dairy cattle, which is why scientists are watching it so closely. However, experts caution that this one change isn't enough to trigger a pandemic. Efficient human-to-human spread would likely require a whole suite of other genetic changes, including mutations in its polymerase genes, which help the virus replicate inside mammalian cells. Often, this jump from bird to human isn't direct. It involves an intermediate host, what scientists call a mixing vessel. For decades, pigs were considered the classic mixing vessel. Why? Because cells in a pig's trachea have both the bird-type alpha-2, 3 receptors and the human-type alpha-2, 6 receptors. This makes them susceptible to both bird and human flu viruses. If a pig gets co-infected, the gene segments from both viruses can shuffle, creating a new reassortant virus that could be deadly to humans and easily transmissible. This is exactly what's believed to have happened to create the 2009 H1N1 swine flu pandemic. But recent events have shown it's not just about pigs. The unprecedented H5N1 outbreaks in U.S. dairy cattle in 2024 and the confirmed transmission to a farm worker was a huge wake-up call. Research has shown that a cow's mammary gland also expresses both human and avian-type receptors. This suggests cattle could be a new and very large mixing vessel. On top of that, H5N1 has now been found in foxes, otters, and even polar bears, showing its host range is expanding, and with it, the opportunities for adaptation. Humanity's history with avian origin flu is longer than you might think. The 1957 Asian flu and 1968 Hong Kong flu pandemics both started when a human virus picked up new genes from an avian virus. But the modern era of bird flu anxiety really began in Hong Kong in 1997. A 3-year-old boy died from a direct infection with a highly pathogenic H5N1 virus. It was the first confirmed case of a bird flu virus, jumping directly to a human without a pig as an intermediary. The outbreak infected 18 people and killed 6. The source was traced to live poultry markets, and in a drastic move, the government ordered the culling of all 1.6 million chickens and other poultry, which successfully stopped the outbreak. But the virus didn't disappear. It kept circulating in waterfowl in southern China, and in late 2003, a new H5N1 lineage re-emerged, causing massive poultry outbreaks across Asia. Aided by migratory birds and the poultry trade, it spread globally, reaching Europe and Africa by 2006. Since 2003, there have been hundreds of sporadic human H5N1 cases across 23 countries, with a frightening case fatality rate of about 50%. Then, in 2013, a new threat appeared in China, H7N9. Unlike H5N1, this virus was low pathogenic in birds, meaning it caused no symptoms in chickens. This allowed it to spread silently through poultry populations before spilling into humans, mostly through exposure at live bird markets. Over 5 years, H7N9 infected over 1,500 people and killed more than 600. When these viruses do infect humans, the severe cases are terrifying. With H5N1, the disease progresses rapidly. After a 2 to 5 day incubation, it starts with high fever and cough, but can quickly lead to severe pneumonia and acute respiratory distress syndrome, or ARDS. Multi-organ failure is common. For those who get sick, the case fatality rate is around 50%, and survivors can have long-term lung damage. H7N9 is similarly aggressive, also leading to severe pneumonia and ARDS, with a case fatality rate around 39%. These spillovers aren't random accidents. They're driven by a combination of factors. The rise of intensive poultry farming, with tens of thousands of birds packed together, acts as a massive amplifier for the virus. Live bird markets, common in parts of Asia, bring different bird species from different places into crowded, stressful conditions, creating a perfect storm for viral spread and genetic reassortment. And we can't forget the natural carriers. Wild ducks and geese carry these viruses without getting sick, shedding them along their migratory flyways, which act as natural highways for global distribution. Climate change is making this worse, altering bird migration patterns and bringing infected wild birds into contact with new poultry populations. So what is the world doing? The global response is a massive surveillance effort led by the World Health Organization's Global Influenza Surveillance and Response System, or GISRS. This network of labs in over 127 countries constantly monitors flu viruses in animals and humans, looking for novel strains. Diagnosis in humans relies on highly sensitive RT-PCR tests. Treatment with antiviral drugs like oseltamivir can be effective, but only if given very early. When outbreaks happen in animals, control measures are drastic. Rapid culling of infected flocks, quarantines, and intense disinfection. Of course, the ultimate weapon is a vaccine, but developing one for a potential bird flu pandemic is incredibly hard. For one, conventional flu shots made from avian viruses don't provoke a very strong immune response in people. You need higher doses or special adjuvants to make them work. The bigger problem is that the virus is a moving target. A vaccine made for one strain might be useless against the new variant that actually causes the pandemic. And traditional egg-based vaccine manufacturing takes months, which is far too slow for a fast-moving pandemic. This is where new technology offers hope. The success of mRNA vaccines during the COVID-19 pandemic showed us a path forward. The mRNA platform allows for incredibly rapid development and manufacturing of a vaccine that can be precisely matched to the pandemic strain. Several mRNA-based H5N1 vaccine candidates are already in development. The Holy Grail is a universal flu vaccine that protects against all strains, but that's still years away. The story of avian influenza is a clear lesson in the One Health concept. The health of people, animals, and the environment are inextricably linked. The virus is still out there, evolving, testing the species barrier. The very agricultural systems that feed us can also amplify disease. Our response must be a state of perpetual vigilance. We must strengthen biosecurity on farms, rethink practices like live bird markets, and invest in next-generation vaccines. We may never be fully ready for the next pandemic, but by understanding the science, we give ourselves the best possible chance to fight back. Thanks for tuning in to G Fun Facts Online.